A very jolly welcome to you on Afia TV. This is the Afia Home of Sports, the sports preview show on Afia TV. It's great to be here. I hope you've had a wonderful weekend so far, and then right now we're starting the working week in grand style. Welcome. Of course, the frequencies still remain the same. Channel 254 DSTV, Channel 17 Go TV, and Channel 748 Free TV. And we're here with so much to talk about this week. We're beginning this working week, just giving you the review concerning what happened last week. So much has happened on the home front, and Iroko has fallen, but he's been given the befitting burial that only we can talk about here on Afia TV. Welcome to the show. I am CCM Echebe, also known as Sisi the Rabbi, and I'm not doing this alone. I have my co-host, as usual, the priest of football, Emeka Maduekwe.
Thank you for having me this evening.
It's good to be here. How was the weekend?
Well, it was good. It was good.
I think
but some interesting matches went down this weekend, so I mean, we had fun this weekend.
Yeah, the matches were good. I mean, we had the good, the bad, and the ugly, but even beyond the matches, I think being residents of Enugu and those who have Rangers International close to our hearts, the burial of Christian Chukwu was what took the whole of our attention last week. But yes, at least finally the chairman has gone home to rest, and for that we are grateful.
The legend can finally rest in peace.
Yes, he definitely can. Okay, so coming back to the show, we have some headlines for you to just look at and then peruse and then understand. First of all, the MPFL that we've waited for so long, the Nigerian Premier Football League 2025-2026 season kicks off in 4 days from now, which means on the 22nd of August, Friday is the day, we're going to have a kickoff, and it's a milestone in many respects. First of all, the fact that this is the first time in recent history that a date has been given for the resumption of the MPFL, and the date has been adhered to the letter. Now, of course, it hasn't happened yet. So much can happen in 4 days, but so far, we've seen improvement from this MPFL board, and we have to give a lot of credit to the chairman of the MPFL board, none other than Honorable Benga Elegbeleye, and the COO himself, Chief Operating Officer Dave Snowumi, who have done a good job in ensuring that things are done as and when due. So that's the first headline. The MPFL kicks off in 4 days. Then, of course, here in Enugu, we are domiciled in Enugu, the 042 Coal City. Enugu Rangers International are going to kick off their campaign with an Oriental derby against Kun Khalifat of Owerri. Now, Kun Khalifat is one of the 4 sides that was promoted from the NNL, that is Nigerian National League, last season during the playoffs, the Super 6. There are 4 sides that were promoted to the MPFL, 2 sides from the southern part of Nigeria, that is Kun Khalifat of Owerri and Warri Wolves of Warri in Delta State, and then the 2 sides from the north, were Barao FC, their maiden campaign, the Kano-based side, were promoted, and then of course Wiki Tourists, they are no strangers to the MPFL from Bauchi. So that's what's going to happen. So an Oriental derby will begin proceedings for the Flying Antelopes, hopefully in a bid to win a record equaling 9th MPFL title, that is a top flight title. So we're looking forward to that. Then also, this piece of news, it's not so pleasant to some teams in the MPFL, but it might be pleasant generally, because the MPFL board has slapped a 1 million naira fine on any club that has decided to withhold their coaches from being available for the post-match interviews. So that's exactly what's happening right now, which means no matter what the outcome of the game may be, every single coach in the MPFL is under obligation, contractual obligation, to face the press after the match and then address the journalists there. So we've had cases in the past where coaches decided to angrily walk off, and then, I'm looking at people like Monde Odige, but, angrily walk off, and the rest of them who don't want to, maybe their tempers are boiling over, but you have a responsibility to answer the press. Questions will be asked, and there's no need leaving things in uncertainty. So definitely this is a good development. And the final piece of news on the headline, as far as headlines are concerned, the CHAN tournament, the African Nations Championship that is ongoing in Tanzania, Kenya, and Uganda, it's down to the last game for the I don't want to call them Super Eagles because they've not deserved that moniker Super, because so far they've been battered, bashed, and bruised by Senegal and Sudan with 5 goals considered non-scored. So they are going home definitely, but the last match is meant to be a dead rubber game against Congo. And that's going to be a game where there's some pride that's left to be salvaged. So that's the last one. And that game will be played in Dar es Salaam it must be noted rather that the previous 2 games that the Eagles, the B team played, the home-based team played, were played in Zanzibar. So this time around, they're going to play in the capital of Tanzania, which is Dar es Salaam. So we go straight to the news proper, what we're discussing today. We raised it, but we just need to look a little bit into it. An Iroko has fallen, an icon has gone home. Ever since April, when he passed away at the age of 74, the whole talk was about the legacy, the life and times of Christian Chukwu, Chairman Christian Chukwu. He was the chairman himself indeed, the legendary captain of the Green Eagles side that won the African Cup of Nations, first AFCON title that Nigeria won, after having reached the finals, or having reached the semi-finals to finals the previous 2 editions in 76 and 78. Finally on home soil, we broke the dog by beating Algeria 3 goals in the final. He was the captain there under the tutelage of Otto Gloria, the Brazilian. And not just that, he was the assistant manager under Clemens Westerhoff, the Dutch, or what we call Dutch-Garian, who won it in 1994. So really, and we know about his history with Rangers International. This is a man who was a legend for Rangers. 9 solid years he spent with Rangers, the Flying Antelopes, from 1972 to 1981. And then also with the Green Eagles, then the Super Eagles. Many of our Gen Zs and Gen X, Gen Y will not know this, but the Super Eagles used to be called the Green Eagles back then in those days. So he was the captain of the Green Eagles then when he played between 1974 and 1981. So this is somebody who's been a legend of the game in many respects, managed the Super Eagles of Nigeria too. And finally, tears were flowing left, right, center. Emotions were just there unchecked. For some, they managed to check their emotions. But finally, this past Saturday, being the 16th of August, his remains were laid to rest in his hometown in Obe, Nkanu West, Enugu State. We talked about this on during the show.
The coverage of the
precisely during the live coverage. We covered it here on Afia TV, and this is the aftermath of his burial. So I mentioned something there. People, I'm very certain that many people have still not come to terms with the fact that a great icon in world football, not just
Nigerian
regional football, not just Nigerian football, not just African football, world football, a great icon has fallen. And just run us through in a couple of minutes the implication of this to those who don't really understand what Christian Chukwu stands for. Because if you check it very well, you can count the number of icons that different teams have, different national teams have. When you look at Brazil, and of course they had dispensations. When you look at Brazil, you see people like Edson Arantes do Nascimento, that's Pele. You have people like, of course, Hincha and the rest of them. In Argentina, we know about Diego Maradona, Diego. We know about Lionel Messi right now, who's the icon. And then all through, Portugal have Cristiano Ronaldo, Cameroon has Samuel Eto'o. So really, it won't be too far-fetched to say that Christian Chukwu, Chairman Christian Chukwu, is one of the greatest, if not the greatest, in terms of what he stood for, the legends of Nigerian football. Talk us through, maybe in about a couple of minutes, the implication
as rightly
of this.
stated out, he was the captain to captain the Green Eagles. Then to the first AFCON. He revolutionized the Nigerian football. He changed the format of how things were done in the national team. He was able to create a different structure for the Super Eagles, then known as the Green Eagles, down into not just continental, but internationally. He was able to give the country a structure. He was able to give the country an identity of football that most other people who passed through the Nigerian system weren't able to do. He had a solid team by his side when he was in his playing days. He had some good teammates. He was a good captain. Off and on the field, he was a great person. He made sure that football, as far as the ranks of Nigeria and beyond the shores of Nigeria, and even beyond Africa, was something that even the layman could be included into. There was a way he was able to incorporate a style of football that changed Nigeria's pattern, earning him the name Chairman by
Ernest Okonkwo, the commentator.
So he has done a lot for Nigerian football and for African football as well.
Well, time will not, we will never have enough time to pour out his encomiums, his accolades, his praises, his plaudits, because that's something that he has deserved. in life and of course in death now. His legacy must still remain. We've talked along these lines for quite a while, but what I want to, what concerns me, as we get towards the end of this first part of the show, is the fact that off the back of what happened during the burial, we had our chief correspondent and of course head of news, Alex Obodo, there live and direct during the burial, and then we were communicating with him. And I asked some very pertinent questions, if you recall, one of them being the fact that we were not sure, we were not certain whether there was a federal government delegation. He then clarified that it was the NSC, that is the National Sports Commission, that had a delegation there. The NSC, by the way, the National Sports Commission is what you would call the Ministry of Sports right now, being led by Malam Shehu Diko. But Christian Chukwu was a national treasure, not just a footballing great, not just a sports great, a national treasure. So normally, whenever you have a national treasure, there should be a national funeral with national honors bestowed there. And till now, I don't know, I stand corrected, but till now, I've not gotten any reports about a delegation specifically sent by the federal government of Nigeria to be there in that burial. And it bothers me if that's the case. Because what I'm saying is, it was a well-attended burial. Yes, let's call it a spade. But it could have been better. It could have been better. We could have had a bit more pomp and pageantry. We could have had a bit more, honor bestowed upon him there. I wasn't 100% satisfied with what I saw. Could this be a case of, because that's why I want to put you on the spot, to know what you have to say. Could this be a case of Nigerians not giving enough honor to their fallen heroes? Remember, we are barely hearing anything about Peter Rufai, Dodo Mayana, who passed away not too long ago. We know that there are plans for his burial, but it seems to be under the wraps. We don't know yet what's going on, which is strange. It should be something that's making the news. We know about some of the fallen heroes of yesteryears. Of course, even not too long ago, just on the 12th of, just last week, 6 days ago, marks the 36th anniversary of the death of an icon on the football field, that's on the field of play in active duty, referring to Samuel Okwaraji. When he was playing on August the 12th, 1989, he was playing for Nigeria against Angola in a World Cup qualifiers to make Nigeria qualify for the Italia 90, the World Cup in 1990, but he died on the pitch. Yes, we know that it's been a long time since he passed, but because of what he stood for, we didn't really hear much about the memorial and all that. Anniversary. It bothers me. I don't know if you share those concerns, because our legends are not being treated right, in my own opinion. Yes.
Well, I mean, when it comes to not just football, but all sports, when you look at how it's done, but outside the shores of Africa and most especially Europe, you see that some of these old legends of different nations have been given some national honors and national pride for, anniversaries of their deaths. People come out to remember this person, what they stood for, what they were able to give to whichever sports they were. If it was a footballer, you see people turn out on the day of their deaths, the anniversaries of their deaths, they come out to pay their respects just to remember these fallen heroes. If it's someone who just passed away recently, you see a whole lot of national sensitivity around it. There's a lot of people taking national pride and stepping in, showing that, okay, this was not just some sports athlete that died. This was some national treasure. And for that fact, we have to pay our utmost respects to this person and their families. So we need to see how the government, not just local governments, I'm talking about the federal government now, can create this sense of awareness that we take these types of situations seriously. If another fallen hero is to emerge, we have to be able to pay our respects. The delegates have to come out for such burials and funerals, pay their respects and rights to these players and their families. Anniversaries of their deaths have to also be celebrated as well. So these are some things that the government needs to incorporate into public awareness and all that.
We're hoping that the government is listening, but at least the rights quarters and representatives are listening to us, because it is a general concern. And I think we're echoing the sentiments of many who feel that No, anything worth doing is worth doing well, and these legends have done well. They have done well, so they are not getting the required celebration and plaudits that they deserve. But we hope that the authorities and everybody that's involved, from the NFF down to every other person that's involved, will do the right thing, do the needful. Let us look after our heroes. Of course, make sure that while they are living post-retirement, that they are well taken care of, their welfare should be of primary concern, because there's a lot that we cannot talk about now because it would open up old wounds. But let's just leave that be. Let's, okay, Sarah, they say, whatever will be, will be. Let's just let it slide until it is necessary to bring it to the fore. But may the gentle soul of the chairman, Christian Chukwu, continue to rest in peace.
Amen.
Now we move on to the next stuff right now, next issue. And that has to do with the CHAN tournament.
I have to say this has been a very disappointing tournament so far.
Disastrous, more like.
I mean, losing the opening 2 games, it's been horrific. I don't want to say the word horrific.
It's been horrific.
It's been horrible.
Why pull punches?
Wow. There's a lot that Secretary has to work on when it comes to these types of tournaments. And for future tournaments, there has to be a lot of work done. There's some criticisms that he has to consider, like some decisions he made in some of the games, like we discussed about certain player that he left on the bench. He needs to put some of this into consideration for future tournaments, because this is already in the bag, it's out. We just have to play for pride now against Congo and get positive results, build up for next tournament and all that.
There's another angle I want to come from here, because first of all, for those who don't know about what's happening, we're talking about the African Nations Championship that is taking place in Tanzania, Uganda and Kenya. 3 nations co-hosts, and Nigeria were placed in Group D. Their base was Zanzibar, and they were there in Group B with Senegal, the defending champions of the tournament, and then Sudan and Congo. But the first game that Nigeria played, they lost to Senegal, by a long goal, very late goal indeed. No, not too much harm in that because they lost to the defending champions. But what ended up being a spectacle and something worse, I just don't want to use words that are not very nice, but that second game was a horror show, a horror fest. And that was horrendous indeed. So what it was, against Sudan. Sudan beat Nigeria 2-0 in the first half and 2-0 in the second half. Add that, 2 + 2 is still 4. And that was a 4-0. So 5 unreplied goals, and Nigeria have crashed out of the tournament. And now Nigeria have an opportunity to just salvage some pride, and that's against Congo. The game is coming up tomorrow by 6 p.m. Tomorrow, the 19th of August, by 6 p.m., Nigeria will play against Congo to try and salvage some pride. Those 2 teams are already out. They've been disqualified. Yes. The top 2 teams, Sudan and Senegal, are already through. But as it is right now, I just want to, let's see if we can end with this. First of all, we know that Nigeria has an opportunity to right some wrongs. Yes, it's not taking...
it's not going to
change anything. Eric Sekuchel is heading back to Abuja with his boys. There's no doubt about that. But at least, are you heading back with a whimper or with the feeling of ifs, buts, and maybes? What could have happened if we had done so and so and so? But the angle I want to come from right now is this. Last season, there was a massive exodus of players. Some of the best players left, because the CHAN tournament, that's the African Nations Championship, for those who don't know, it's a tournament that's like let me say the younger sibling of the Cup of African Cup of Nations Cup, but it's home-based, for home-based players. So the leagues of the teams or the countries that are participating are bringing their best players to participate in the tournament. So for you to play in the tournament, you have to be based in your home league. So that means anybody outside of the MPFL cannot play
for Nigeria, yes.
But some of them were called up during the preparation for the tournament, and they trained and did a number of things. People like Papa Daniel Mustafa of Niger Tornadoes, he's now gone. People like Isaac Xavier of Rangers International, the Mercurial midfielder, he's now gone. He's left Rangers. A good number of players, Kazim Ogunleye, sorry. Kazim Ogunleye was here, and then eventually he left Rangers. He left earlier than Isaac Xavier. So that midfield was a bit depleted. A number of other areas were depleted. But I want to be fair, I want to be objective, even though other countries may say what about us? What about Sudan? Don't they have a home league? Isn't that, aren't you seeing the performance of the home-based players? Likewise, South Africa, likewise, Ghana, likewise, Senegal. So why is Nigeria's zone different? But is there any credibility to that claim that the exodus of some of the best home-based players who have moved on to pastures new affected the performance?
Well, when it comes to football, you have to consider a lot of factors, and it is a big factor when you look at it because, like you said, some of the key players around the leagues had the mass exodus out of the league, and that will affect this CHAN tournament because it's going to affect the quality of players you're going to have to invite to the national team to represent Nigeria when they're going for the CHAN tournament. So if the top quality players are no longer in the national league, that means you have to settle for what you have to get, the best of what you have left. And if the best of what you have left is not still good enough to compete, that's where the problem comes. And we've seen it in this tournament. Some of the players that were brought for this tournament were not up to par with their contingents from around the rest of the leagues around the continent. I mean, getting mauled by Sudan is just a big example of the difference in quality. So, I mean, there has to be a review of the league. You have to look for how to attract good top quality players back into the league. So when we go for such tournaments, we know that we have the very best at our disposal. That has to be considered.
I think that's a piece of advice that's worthy of noting and also worthy of ruminating on moving forward, because we want the best for our local leagues. We want the best for our tournaments that Nigeria goes there to represent us. It's something that's needful. So we just wish them all the best. I mean, we just have to say that we wish them all the best in their game against Congo by tomorrow, 6 p.m. So please make sure you support them. At least let's welcome them back. Let their morale not be so shattered, because it's not easy being a professional footballer. Stick around. We'll be right back after this short break. We have a lot to cover. The Europe is back. European leagues are back, and we've had a number of wonderful results and not so wonderful decisions have been made. So we're going to look at what the officiating is all about and why there seem to be some inconsistencies, amongst other things, in the leagues that have come back. Stick around. This still remains the Afia Sports Review Show on Afia TV, and the channels still remain the same. Channel 254 DSTV, Channel 17 Go TV, Channel 748 Free TV. We'll be right back after these short messages. Stick around. Don't touch that dial. You're welcome back to the Afia Sports Show, Sports Review Show on Afia TV. The frequencies are still the same. Like we said, Channel 254 DSTV, Channel 17 Go TV, and Channel 748 Free TV. Welcome back. I remain CC Emechebe, aka CC the Rabbi, and I have, of course, Emeka, the priest of football, Emeka Madoke Fimelo. We are now, our private jet has landed.
We're now in Europe.
We're now in Europe, yeah. And so much has happened in Europe. The European football is back. The English Premier League is back. It's back, and it began with a bang and with some controversy as usual. PGMOL, we're looking at you. But first of all, we have to look at some of the results, the key results that happened. The EPL began on Friday the 15th of August, 2025, and it began with the match between Liverpool, the defending champions, and Bournemouth. That match ended 4-2. It was a game that had different things there. First of all, some of the issues that happened there. The new signing for Liverpool, Antoine Semenyo. Sorry, what did I say? I said Semenyo because I was coming to Semenyo's issue. When did Semenyo sign for Liverpool? Please pardon me, I just had to say that. But no, really, the new signing from Eintracht Frankfurt for Liverpool, that's Hugo Ekitike, the French international. He was there, was on the score sheet. He scored the Premier League's first goal of the season, opened up scoring, and in the second half, the goal was doubled by Nokodi Gakpo. Before, it was a Semenyo show, and I think Semenyo just wanted to channel his rage and anger in scoring Liverpool, because something happened in the 28th minute. Yes, something happened in the 28th minute. There was an allegation of racial abuse. Funnily enough, from somebody who should know better. There was a disabled person there who was accused of hurling racial epithets on, Antoine Semenyo, and it didn't go down with everybody there. So tensions arose and was stoked up. But eventually, the second half played out, and then Semenyo grabbed 2 goals, a brace in that game. Liverpool were looking a bit jittery, but finally, come at the moment, come at the man that was rarely used last season. Federico Chiesa scored what proved to be the winning goal, and then what added gloss on the scoreline was the mercurial Egyptian king himself, Mohamed Salah, who scored the first goal of the season, his first goal of the season, first of many, obviously, because
he just had to do that for his FPL managers.
He had to do that with his weaker right foot, and that means that Mohamed Salah has now become the joint 4th highest goal scorer in Premier League history, with 187 goals, alongside Andrew Cole, the former Manchester United and Newcastle United striker. So that means one more goal will push him clear, and then he will enter 3rd, and that means that only you'll have a few more goals to get to the Club 200. There are 3 players that are in Club 200 right now. Alan Shearer, who has the highest number of goals with 260 goals. Then Harry Kane, who has 213 goals. And Wayne Rooney, who has 208 goals. That's the Club 200. So Salah is trying to get to Club 200. He's just 13 goals away from Club 200. If you bet against him, I fear you. I fear who no fear.
Giving up what happened last season, he's definitely going to enter the Club 200.
No, he will. And then again, he has another record to his name. That is the highest number of opening day goals. 10 times he scored on the opening day of his season for Liverpool. That is outstanding, absolutely outstanding. Salah, indeed, nobody should underestimate you. But there have been some issues, controversy has been in that game. For instance, one of the key bits of controversy has to be one of the rules, the implementation of the rules there, and because we'll give the other results, but I just have to pick out the rules. Some of the rules there in the EPL, it was actually announced by the PGMOL that the English Premier League will have a new set of rules. One of those rules has to be the who is meant to approach the referee.
Yes. The captain
during the game, and that's only the captain of the team is the only one that's allowed to go to the referee. And then the only exception to that rule, that's to protest a decision or something like that. The only exception to that rule is if the captain is a goalkeeper and is far away from the referee, he then nominates an outfield player that is closer, within close proximity to the referee, and that outfield player goes there to represent the captain, and then but something happened between Liverpool and Bournemouth. Alexis McAllister, the Argentinian midfielder, approached the referee, that's Anthony Taylor, and nothing happened, no caution. Now, some have interpreted that in different ways and said maybe the tensions that stoked over from the racism issue. Yes. But I watched that game, I looked there, I didn't see anything related to the racial slurs that were allegedly hurled at Antoine Semenyo. And I'm concerned about double standards here, because so many things have happened. We'll talk about some of the other results, like we saw what should have happened, and that was, for instance, the game between Tottenham Hotspur and Burnley. Martin Dubravka, the goalkeeper for Burnley, was penalized for the first time. So that rule of 8 seconds, a goalkeeper cannot hold on to the ball for more than 8 seconds. Yes. Michael Oliver cautioned him, and then made it a corner kick to Tottenham Hotspur, which nothing came out of anyway. But 4 minutes later, Richarlison scored. So really, it's what we are concerned about, and there will be a special. I want to just announce to everybody very, very soon, coming to you. There will be a special segment on this show, the Monday review show. It's the ref's eye. So it's going to have a professional referee that will be analyzing everything, every controversial decision that has happened over the past week in all the key games. So you're going to listen and run through from the referee's point of view, how he interprets the laws of the game. Very important, because in the game of football, in a typical 90-minute game, about 350 decisions are made in a typical 90-minute game, and about 300 of those decisions are subjective, which means the referee is often blindsided. Only 50 are objective. So it's a difficult thing for a referee. He can't see everything, which is why VAR comes into the picture, the linesman comes into the picture, and then other people who might help make him make the right decision. But we need to analyze things from a referee's perspective. So that ref watch is coming. But overall, because I just want to get your thoughts on some of the games before I list out the results of the games.
Before moving to the rest of the games, like the Liverpool game, the incidents, like you pointed out, McAllister not getting a caution after approaching the ref, case of double standards there, the Senesi incident with him and the handball where he touched the ball and the referee didn't give a caution or a penalty to Liverpool. I mean, there are a lot of things that the PGML will have to explain why it seems as if there are double standards in the league this season, because if you say these are fouls and these are against the rule of play, you should give out the proper cautions to the players that are guilty of such fouls. So they need to explain whether it's just light-sided something or it's double standards now that is coming into play.
Or if it's a case of the referee using his discretion, because sometimes there is some room that should be given for a referee to apply his discretion. But you're not meant to go overboard with your discretion. Otherwise, you'll be accused of favoritism. And you're accused of bias. That's my concern. So the referees need to toe that line properly. Anyway, having said that, let's just read out some of the results there. We just talked about that. Liverpool beat Bournemouth 4-2 in the opening game of the season. And then Aston Villa had a goalless draw against Newcastle. 10-man Aston Villa, who had a man sent off. And then Sunderland thrashed West Ham United. Welcome back to the Premier League. Welcome back. The Black Cats are back. We don't know how long they'll be around.
Is really shining.
Yeah, let it shine. Let there be no darkness. But they have done their chances a great deal of good by getting that vital win. 3 unreplied goals against West Ham United. Then Brighton and Hove Albion had a 1-1 draw against Fulham at the Amex Stadium. And then we had Tottenham Hotspur up against Burnley. Richarlison, who has been accused of not being a very good goal scorer, he grabbed a brace. And I think they are buoyed by the fact that Son Heung-min is no longer there. So they said, okay, fine, we are capable of scoring the goals. And
not
it was
just
the
a brace from Richarlison, but a brace of assists from Kudus as well.
From Kudus, yes. And then, of course, 1 goal by Brennan Johnson. So very important. Good showing for Tottenham Hotspur. And like we said earlier, in that game, the first implementation of the 8-second rule, holding on to the ball for more than 8 seconds attracts a corner kick for the opposing players.
Which was given.
And Dubravka broke that rule because he had the ball for 3 seconds in his hand before Michael Oliver began the countdown, 5-second countdown. He still had the ball after the 5 seconds had expired. So it was then given as a corner kick to Tottenham Hotspur. So we want to see more of that and discretion, less of discretion, you know, so that it won't kill the game. So that's what happened. Tottenham Hotspur beat Burnley by 3-0. And the Wolverhampton Wanderers were pasted, plastered, bamboozled, obliterated. I lack words, but you get the point.
That's what happens then. Firing on all cylinders as he got a brace again.
Yes, Haaland has begun. The Viking grabbing a brace there, and then the new boys, Tijani Reinders and Shekri, both from AC Milan and Lyon respectively, were also on the score sheet. Very, very impressive new signings. And then we had Nottingham Forest against Brentford. The man that doesn't stop scoring, Chris Wood, grabbing a brace in that game, continuing from where he stopped last season. His best season so far in the EPL was last season, and he's saying, hey guys, I'm not going anywhere. The New Zealand striker, he continued scoring. And then we had Chelsea up against Crystal Palace. Now that was a painful result for both sides. First, Chelsea, off the back of being the world champions, and they didn't hesitate to show the whole world that they're world champions with the banners, and rightly so, they deserve to be world champions. But Chelsea Football Club, where Oliver Glasner's boys went 2-2 against Enzo Maresca's boys and did everything, and that's another refereeing issue that I'm talking about.
Another decision got in there.
That the goal that was scored, a free kick, brilliant free kick scored by Eberechi Eze, the man who most likely will be on his way out of South London to North London.
Discussions were made about the VAR check when the referee went up to the screen, and according to the laws of PMLG, if a player impedes another player which obstructs the goalkeeper's view, the goal would be overturned, which is what they gave the reason for cancelling the Crystal Palace goal. Their reason was that Maguire, the captain of Crystal Palace, had pushed Caicedo into the part of the view of Sanchez.
Okay.
And that, of course, had to now lead to the goal being cancelled out.
Okay, that was one of the reasons. Now, I'm going to read it from Law 13. For those who don't know, the Law 13 of the refereeing, the referee's rules as far as the EPL is concerned. Law 13 is a law on free kicks. Now, this was what came into play. It said where 3 or more defending team players form a wall, that's a defensive wall, all attacking team players must remain at least 1 meter or 1 yard from the wall until the ball is in play. Now, the McGahey was close, was no more than 1 meter away from there. So obviously it was kind of obstructing the view. But many people have come up with arguments and saying that it's double standards. We've not double standards yet because this rule is being implemented for this season. Remember last season, there are many teams that did the same thing. Manchester United against Arsenal, where what's his name again? The captain Bruno Fernandes scored a free kick against Arsenal there.
Yes.
The same thing happened. You had players who are less than 1 meter away from the wall. Yes. Yet nothing was given there. We had a case of, even against Arsenal again, I think that was Emerson Palmieri for West Ham United, where he scored that brilliant free kick. The same thing, they were impeded at in the London Stadium.
Yes.
And then we also saw a case, I can't remember the team that played against Manchester City. Kevin De Bruyne scored, I think, a free kick. The same thing happened.
I believe that would be West Ham.
I really can't remember.
I'm not sure, but I do recall the Kevin De Bruyne.
But I'm just trying to point out that those rules were not applicable then. They are applicable from this season. So if such a thing happens again and then nothing is done about it, then we can accuse the referee of bias.
Yes.
So just to clear the air regarding that issue. So that was what happened there. So Chelsea got away with 1 there because it was a brilliant goal scored by Berechi as a free kick, but it was taken away from him. 2 players that seemed to be on their way out of the club ended up getting disappointed. But all the same, it was a goalless draw, very valuable point, but Chelsea were gutted not to get something from that game. But I think it's a case of Crystal Palace being more gutted because it seemed like 3 points were in their hands and snatched from them. But that's football for you.
Yes.
Then, of course, the biggest game of the weekend had to be that game between Arsenal and Manchester United at Old Trafford. And Arsenal have made a decent habit of preventing Manchester United from getting anything from Old Trafford.
Yes.
So it was a very, very tightly contested game. Ricardo Calafiori grabbed the only goal of that game.
A header from a set piece.
Yeah, a header from a set piece. Of course, the accusations they're saying that William Saliba was impeding both Mason Mount, who was playing as a false 9, and Alta Baender, that's the goalkeeper who was standing in for Andre Onana. So it was impeding him, and then the goal was scored. So really, but the referee didn't see it that way. Simon Hooper didn't see it that way. And set piece FC accusations again. Arsenal basically won ugly, but at the end of the day, we got to see some new signings show their stuff. I want to ask you right now, just let's be objective, because I have my own views regarding the new signings for both sides.
Yes.
We had the striker conundrum there concerning Vitor Gyökeres and then Benjamin Sesko for Manchester United. He came on, Sesko came on, Gyökeres started, they didn't have the best of games. Sesko didn't have enough time to impact the game. He came on, but still didn't have the best of games. But it had to be a better cameo than Gyökeres' own.
It was
then the other signings like of course Mbeumo and Cunha.
When it comes to the Arsenal Man United game,
yes.
3 things you take from the game. The strikers debate, as they said, between Benjamin Sesko and Victor Gyökeres. 2 strikers were silent on the night. Didn't really have much to say in the game, didn't have much to inflict on the game. But when it came to midfield battle, you saw players like Mbeumo, Matheus Cunha, more lively in the other side. Martin Odegaard gave in a few shouts, trying to get some shots in there. Declan Rice, you saw the likes of Moreno when he came in. Zubimendi making some impact there, trying to cause havoc while he was still playing. Some defensive key, like Calafiori stepping up. Not too much from any of the new signings defensive-wise. wise for Madueke when he came in, tried to cause one or two problems for Man United, but was unable to. When it comes to the Man United midfield, not much done there apart from Bremo and Cunha. Defensive wise, still the same old defense. Nothing there, nothing from the goalkeeping aspect as well. So it was just really that midfield battle between Bremo, Cunha, and the Arsenal midfield.
No, you're talking about the fact that Mbeumo and Cunha were dropping deeper in the midfield.
Into the midfield.
But they were not doing, that wasn't their primary job.
Yes,
that's why you look at
positioned
Bruno
as
Fernandes.
wingers, but yes, they dropped deep into the midfield to try and help out there.
Yeah, so Bruno Fernandes didn't particularly cover himself with glory.
Yes.
And some would wonder whether Man United should have picked up the £100 million that was offered them from the Saudi Pro League for him to go. But eventually we saw how some things changed. Diego Dalot, for instance, people said that he had a terrible game. When Amad Diallo came on, there was a big change there. Ugarte came on also and then did the best that he could. Casemiro, who was the partner of Bruno Fernandes in that midfield. Yes. Casemiro is still Casemiro. He has lost a lot of pace, yes, but he still has a footballing head on his shoulders. But from an Arsenal perspective, for me, I think that the best midfielder on the night had to be Martin Zubimendi, because he came in there, it's just as if he was tailor-made for the Premier League and causing Arsenal not to miss Thomas Partey. It's too early to say that, but Zubimendi just showed his brilliance and his ability and the fact that he's one of the most highly rated number 6 in the world of football. So I think it's still early days, because normally the first game of the season can be very, very dicey. A lot could happen. Things could go wrong. I call it a 50-50.
Yes.
You never can tell what result you're going to get if you play the first game of the season. But overall, it was Man United were very unhappy because they did all the playing. The statistics show that they did a lot of playing. Arsenal were pegged back defensively. But somebody was saying that Arsenal gave Man U a taste of their medicine, and they started showing the past how during Ferguson's time, Arsenal would do all the playing, Man U would do all the scoring and stuff like that. So it was really a very interesting game. But Manchester United have lost a valuable record that they've always had and cherished. And it was quite sad that it was their bitter rivals, Arsenal, that took that record from them. What record are we talking about? Manchester United, for the first time in the Premier League era, have lost an opening day game at Old Trafford. And it was to Arsenal. So really, well, it's
not
still
positive for them on the night, but I mean, there's some few things they can take from the game. It was just the 1-0 goal, the lone goal there, and they did have some good performances there, so that they can build up from that into the second game.
Sure. So wonderful performances, I have to be honest. Many people didn't expect them to show up that way.
Yes.
Not the result they wanted, definitely not the result they wanted, but the performance, there's a lot of encouragement there. So I think Man United, if they keep on playing that way and then improve upon where they have some gaps, I think they're going to be good this season. So let's go straight to, okay, there's one more game. We'll just talk about this.
Yeah, one more game to be played today.
One more game, that's Leeds United, the newly promoted Leeds United.
Host on Everton at Ellen Road, yes.
Yeah, Ellen Road. Ellen Road has really missed Premier League football for a little while right now, and Leeds United are back to the EPL.
It's a game to watch out for, because I mean, Everton would be wary of their former talisman who will be taking on them today. I'm talking about Calvert-Lewin. He is signed for Leeds, so that's one game to watch. The key signings for Everton as well, with Jack Grealish coming into the team, and Jusby Hall as well. Yeah. And some other key signings too. Very
key signings. So we're going to see the battle of the signings, and then also the mainstays who have been there before, and see what they bring to the table and how things can change. Well, we will talk more about that when we return from this break, because we're going from the English Premier League, we're going to Spain, sunny Spain. Something happened this past week. Barcelona Football Club continue from where they stopped, and then of course other games that are coming up and have happened. Thomas Partey, who has returned to Spain. He used to play for Atletico Madrid, but he's now back to Spain after his Arsenal spell, and he played for Villarreal. How did that end? Stick around and find out after this short break. Back to the Afia Sports Review Show on Afia TV, the home of sports, where the frequencies still remain the same. That's channel 748 Free TV, channel 254 DSTV, channel 17 Go TV. Welcome, and of course I'm still CC the Rabbi, and I have Emeka Madoke, the priest of football, Femelo here.
Yes.
And we are still in Europe, but we want to just tidy up things here. We are now in sunny Spain. The rain in Spain stays mainly in the plane. And the plane I'm referring to is not an aeroplane, the plane. And Barcelona Football Club, first of all, let's just list out the results. Yeah, from where they stopped last season. But I want to read out the results, first of all, in the Spanish La Liga that happened. First of all, we had the first game, which was Girona, the Catalan side, Girona against Rayo Vallecano. They lost by 3-1. So I think maybe Ronaldo Luis Nazario de Lima, the R9, must have talked to his boys to do something. He owns Rayo Vallecano. So Girona lost that game. 10-man Girona, by the way, they lost by 1-3 at home. Then Villarreal beat Real Oviedo. They beat Real Oviedo by 2-0. That's what happened to Villarreal.
One of the newly promoted sides as well.
Oviedo, a newly promoted side, and there's somebody there that's in Real Oviedo, his boyhood club, and that's Santiago Cazorla Gonzalez, the former Malaga and Arsenal legend who played there. He's 40 years of age. He'll be 41 this December. So that's his lifelong dream, to play in La Liga with Oviedo, his boyhood club. So he's living his dream, at least for the last period there. So they ended up losing that game, a man down to Villarreal. And then we had, of course, Mallorca, like you pointed out, 9-man Mallorca, losing to Barcelona. They defended, they huffed and puffed. After the two goals were scored, they huffed and puffed, 9 men, but Yamal just had to have the final say. So they breached their resistance. But I have problems with that, because why wouldn't Barcelona break down a 9-man team for the whole of the second half? That's something that should be a concern for Hansi Flick, in my own opinion, because Barcelona should have been more ruthless.
You have to also take into account that Mallorca are also known to be a defensive side.
Yes, but I mean 9 against 11. Come on, let's tell ourselves the truth. But all the same, be that as it may, we also had Alaves beating Levante by 2-1 at home, and Valencia drawing with Real Sociedad, Valencia 1-1, and then Celta Vigo losing at home to Getafe 2-0. Then Athletic Bilbao, that's Athletic Club, beating Sevilla in a 5-goal thriller, 3-2. We beat them there, 3-2. Of course, Nico Williams grabbed a goal and an assist there. After signing a new contract and rejecting Barca's overtures, he stayed there and then repaid the fate of his employers and his boyhood club. Then Espanyol beat Atletico Madrid 2-1. We talked about that beautiful, come from behind, that beautiful goal scored by Julian Alvarez, the former Man City player.
For Atletico Madrid as well, but I mean, it wasn't enough on the night.
Wasn't enough, wasn't meant to be. So those are the results so far. Then LK will be playing tonight by 8 p.m. against Real Betis. And then tomorrow we're going to have Real Madrid opening their account against Osasuna at the Santiago Bernabeu Stadium. There was a player who returned to La Liga for the first time after a long time out, and I'm referring to Thomas Partey. Thomas Partey returned to La Liga, and he came on in the 82nd minute, I beg your pardon, for Santi Comesana. And there were some boos, and there were some cheers. So there were jeers and cheers. What were your thoughts about that? Does it have anything in your opinion, to do with maybe the moral cloud hanging over his head? If that's the case, did he travel from England to Spain? Was it right for them to judge him before hearing what he has to say?
We have seen these types of things happen, even in the case of Mason Greenwood, when he was allegedly, when he raped a lady, allegedly. But I mean, you don't just judge quickly without being proven that this is what happened. Thomas Partey getting some cheers because he is a top-class quality player. But some boos were there because people were quick to judge over the rape case that is hanging over his head, the alleged rape case. It hasn't been proven whether he was truly guilty of raping the lady in question.
Yes.
So when you see matters like this, the neutrals have to try their best to try and douse out any negatives in the game. You don't just jump into conclusions and boo these players when you're not sure that they are guilty of the alleged crimes they have been placed under. I mean, Greenwood suffered the same thing. We saw the likes of Mendy, Man City. Now we're seeing it again now with the likes of Thomas Partey. This is something that happens in the modern day football that isn't right. You have to just try and give the players as much credit as they are owed until proven guilty of such crimes. I mean, it's sad to see it in the modern game football.
But this is what I want to say. I don't know, just a thought. It's still too early to judge those that that jeered him, because some people naturally, many people, they have sisters, they have mothers, they have wives, they have girlfriends, and maybe they also feel that was a wrong thing to do. I mean, I'm just trying to speak from their angle. But I want to make some comparisons now. We talked about Mason Greenwood here, what happened in Manchester between his girlfriend and the alleged rape and then abuse and everything. He carried that cloud. That was even the reason Manchester United released him on loan to Getafe in Spain. But Greenwood ended up being a hero in Getafe. He was celebrated in Getafe after a long period of time. And then he was putting in very, very solid results, getting solid results rather, and putting in solid performances. And then at the end of the day, he came back. That wasn't hanging over his head anymore from Spain anyway. Manchester United, not so much. But for Spain, it was still hanging over. It was not hanging over his head. Could it be a case of us waiting to see whether Thomas Partey, through his performances, could win the crowd, just shut up the haters, and then win the Villarreal, the Yellow Submarines over, win the crowds, and get them to rally behind.
It's a matter of time. Yeah, it's got to be down to Thomas Partey now to give in what he's got, give out his quality, use that to silence the haters, and just prove that he is here for football, and that's what matters.
Okay, we will wish him all the best, and not like we condone anything that may have happened. Remember, he's allegedly guilty of the crime, but he hasn't been proven guilty. We have to find out what will happen. But this happened when he was playing for Arsenal Football Club, and he's now moved on to Villarreal. And we end the show with somebody who was not his teammate, but was he? Yeah. No, he was not his teammate. No, they never played together. A former Arsenal player himself, some will call him a legend in his own right, who moved on to Chelsea and then achieved great things also with Arsenal. Referring to none other than Olivier Giroud. Now, of course, he's a golden oldie. People age like fine wine. Olivier Giroud was born on 30th of September 1986, which means next month he's going to turn 39, but he's still banging in the goals. After successful spells in Europe, he went to the MLS, and then he's back with Lille in his native France, and he scored a very, very important goal there, showing that the magic is still there. Olivier Giroud, what do you have to say?
I think
underrated,
most underrated striker of all time.
I believe so too.
And I mean, Giroud is one who ages with like fine wine. As the seasons progress, you keep seeing top quality progress out of Giroud. I mean, maybe it's just some quality plays from him, trying to get himself a shout for the World Cup. Who knows? Let's watch out and see.
Or maybe he got a high five from Cristiano Ronaldo. Probably. maybe that's what happened. All right, so that's the size of the package for today. Thank you very much for being with us on the Afia Sports Review Show on Monday. We're going to do this again, the review show, but we're still going to come back here on TV on Thursday by 5 p.m., 5 to 6 p.m., and on Friday, 5 to 6 p.m. You also see us on Saturday, as usual, on the Home of Sports, where we're going to be discussing all things sports from 10:30 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. But till then, we are leaving now, and we're going to still keep in touch with you and know all that's happening, and let you know all that's happening in the world of sports. Until we meet again, not tomorrow, sorry, to meet again on Thursday.
I am Emeka Madoka, your Pistol Football, saying goodbye.
And I remain Sisi the Rabbi, saying goodbye. Shalom.